What's up, weirdos? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Felicia. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And today we are talking about the Netflix movie called Apostle. It's written and directed by Gareth Evans. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt for it right now. I got this in my box of Dread, but I didn't want to wear it until I saw the movie just in case like there was something I didn't know. I don't know. So I checked this movie out this week with my Patreon people. So on my Patreon, we just started having a monthly hangout where we watch a movie together on Rabbit and then we talk the whole time. It was like the most fun couple hours ever, so I just want to say thank you to you guys so much for watching with me. I had a blast. Anyways, so Apostle. So this movie takes place in 1905 and follows the main character Thomas Richardson, played by Dan Stevens, and he's going to this isolated island to save his sister who's been kidnapped by a religious cult. A spooky scary. So I think the thing that's cool about this movie is it has sort of two different types of horror it's playing with. One is the psychological kind of horror, right, where we have a cult. So people that are in a cult, they're very isolated on this island. Everyone's taking commands from one person that has this like sort of divine right in some way. And the cult uses devices such as torture and humiliation to like keep everyone in line. So that's not good. And then you have the supernatural aspect of the horror where you have this goddess that controls the land that they live on and also her very scary minion, and they come out more and more as the movie goes on. The next thing I really liked about this movie is the cinematography. I think it's really beautifully shot. The cinematographer's name is Matthew Flannery, and he really did a very beautiful job because it takes place on this island and it has this sort of like religious backdrop. A lot of the religious imagery that we're looking at and the landscape itself is like very powerful to look at together, and I think he did a really good job capturing that. It's also like, you know, very dark and moody and spooky. The mood overall is like very dark and spooky, and you have sort of this contrast of everything on this island is sort of dying, and so there's a lot of like decay and like dark colors and all these things, and then we also have like the opposite of that, which is like little bits of like green coming up and like big fires. Like, so it's like a very visually pleasing movie to watch. The acting overall was fine. I didn't really find that I had a lot of big standouts for acting. I thought overall they did a good job. The only problem I had is that I just thought it was a little bit too long. It's a little bit over 2 hours, and the first like 2/3 go pretty slowly. Like the last bit of the movie is sort of like, whoa, like I'm with you now, like this is awesome, but it does take kind of a long time to get there, and I guess I'm so used to like horror movies being like an hour and a half that when I saw it was like over 2 hours, it was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, I was like, dang. And the only problem I ever have with a movie being long is if it feels long, and this movie, I will say, did sort of feel long. Alright, let's do some ratings and then we'll hit some spoilers. The scare, I'm actually gonna give a 4. While I was watching, I was like, this isn't that scary. It's just sort of like, ooh, dark and spooky. But then there were a couple moments where I was literally like, whoa, like I like jumped in a few moments. I was grossed out in a few moments. That was another reason it was really cool to like watch with my Patreon people, because we were just like in the chat just being like, Dah! Like, no, don't do it! Like, that was like super fun. And it was like, especially the last like 30 minutes of the movie was a lot of that. The gore gets a 4 because, you know, of like the stuff I was saying about them having some like torture situations. You definitely see a lot of blood, so if you don't like that, you might not like this movie. Cheese, a 1. This is like the least cheesy movie I've ever seen. Overall, I give this movie like a 3.5. It's definitely a better than average horror movie and definitely worth watching, but I don't think I'm really gonna watch it again, mostly because it's so long. And I felt like the payoff wasn't really there to warrant a 2 hour and 15 minute movie. But I would recommend you guys check it out because they do some really cool stuff, so I definitely think it's worth a one-time watching. Also, I realized in my last couple of videos I started saying like how I would recommend watching movies, and I think I'm gonna like keep doing that because it's just sort of fun to me. So for this one, I would definitely recommend like a glass of like blood red wine and like maybe light, you know, like light your scented candles, turn off the lights and like watch this like very dark and scary movie. That's sort of what I would say, but definitely you need a glass of wine because it gets intense. All right, now for some spoilers. So my favorite image overall was definitely the goddess. So it's a sort of very old, decaying old woman that is like interweaving in all of these roots and all these plants, and she drinks blood, and it's like a very like disturbing image, but it's also like sort of beautiful. So that image for me was like the one that stuck with me the most. My favorite characters were like the young lovers. I think their names I know the girl's name was like Fionn or something. I think the guy's name was Jeremy, but it's the two young lovers. You see them like have sex, and it's like very awkward and amazing. And then she ends up getting pregnant, and her dad, who is first of all like an insane asshole, and second of all is convinced the baby's gonna be like somehow demonic or something, because everything that grows on this island right now is basically poisoned. And so he freaks out, he kills her, and then he gets the entire island to kill the boy, and it is so brutal and horrible. But their little story is like the one I like felt the most connected to in the movie. Like I would say even more so than the guy trying to rescue his sister. But I really like those two characters, and I was like really sad neither of them made it. And then the last thing I just want to talk about is the ending. I thought it was really beautiful. So basically Thomas does end up saving his sister. She gets away, but he does have to stay behind because he is hurt and he can't make it to the boat. And it's like, is he gonna make it to the boat? He's not gonna make it to the boat. And so he starts bleeding onto the ground, and basically the like vegetation starts to like consume him, and then you see his eyes sort of turn into the eyes that you saw on the goddess earlier, which was really interesting to me. And I'm not sure if that sort of meant like he was sort of taking on that role now, or if that's just like how the goddess consumes. Like I'm not super sure. But I did think it was a really cool ending to watch. Like this guy come to this island and he never really gets to leave in order to save his sister. Like, you know, I love a good sacrifice. And that was really beautiful. Alright y'all, and that's it. That's what I thought of Apostle. I feel like I can like proudly wear the t-shirt now because I really did enjoy the film. And I'm telling you, like there was a lot of good scares in it that I would just say watch the movie for those, because it was like I was jumping a lot. And even sometimes covered my eyes, which is, you know, my favorite thing to do in horror movies, is just go do a little bit of this guy, and that's how you know they did a good job. So, my name is Felicia. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video. Have a nice screen. Bye.